Custom live on streaming service. All right, so let's.
Just let me close the door. I'll be right back.
Okay. Custom live on streaming service. We are streaming. All right, so let's. We're streaming. I didn't even have to click go live on the thing. How interesting is that? Okay. Oh, I can't believe that we're streaming. Okay, well, hello everybody. Happy Raw Wednesday. Sorry we're a little bit late. We will be more punctual. We will work on being more punctual, I promise. So today is episode 5, and let me get Maggie in there so we can view each other. There we go. So today is episode 5. It is the ins and outs of channeling. And I picked 5:55. We were supposed to go live at 5:55, but some stuff comes up. It always does. But the reason I picked 5:55 Central is because when I was doing this, when I was putting everything together, 5:55 was appearing everywhere. Like I was getting notifications on my phone that were saying like 5:55. Like I think the time was even 5:55, and then it was episode 5. And so I was like, wow, I think we should probably just do it at 5:55. And it goes into what this new eclipse is going to be with the sun, because 5:55 is letting go of like past stuff that no longer serves you, and that's what the whole eclipse is about. So that is coming up on what, Maggie, the 10th, June 10th? Yes. So that is that. And now that we are live, okay. It's been so crazy. I don't know. I just, it's been a really, really crazy day. So until I get my bearings and I get settled down, you'll just have to deal with just me being kind of crazy. So today we thought we would talk about the process of channeling, what we've learned along the way, some of the unique things to us, and then help you guys with your questions as well, and just kind of have a really nice evening of chit chat.
Sounds fun. I'm excited for tonight.
Maggie's been really excited for this like all week. So feel free, guys, to put your questions in the chat. And should we start by connecting, Maggie? Because we had so many crazy things going on. We never did that.
Yeah, those of you who are with us now or with us later, if you want to put your hands up with us and connect for some bit of grounding, centering energy, we'll do some language. Do you want to start?
Sure. Remember, feet flat on the floor, and then take your belly breaths, like Ra was talking about, moving the belly. So make sure when you breathe, you're moving your belly. Das katayata uno so dubujaka teata kolonono naleata skapushkata nianiapo bakala anabushkata tiataska nayana na halaleo lalaleo lolo lala kasa tiata kanama mupopotoshako naleaska nana. Namaste.
Insia sasina ukusumia kate. Lansa kasatu musukaya satinea sata. Turukasa musunea lahana suhuria hata. Wahala hana ukuse amasakatu ukusia na moruhana. Layahuhia la katu ukusea hana masukutiata. Mayasa tinea sata. Namaste.
Namaste.
Can I say something? Can I bring something up since we just did light language? I don't know how many of you out there speak light language already or are aspiring to speak light language. But since we're talking about channeling and we just did light language, I consider light language to be a form of channeling because depending on who you ask or depending on what energy you're in, when you're channeling light language, you are bringing words to your desires and intention that your conscious mind might not know are there. That's what a lot of light language is. It's this language coming through to put your prayers out into the world for you. So what you need at that moment comes back to you. In our case, sometimes higher dimensional beings, angels and stuff will come through to give their blessings and give their messages and give their energies. But I think it's really helpful if you speak light language or you want to speak light language to get in the center of grounded, centered space and, just open your mouth and see what happens. I've talked to a lot of people recently who say, well, I don't have any languages. I don't know how to speak light language. Everybody can speak light language. Everybody has languages, and it's not something that you have to learn. It's just something that you have to kind of let down your walls of being self-conscious and just open your mouth and speak and see what comes out. And I guarantee you, if you try, that you will surprise yourself. And Temple is very much more an expert in light languages than me, but I thought we could bring it there first since we just did some.
I definitely would not say expert. So Devin asks, that was my question. I was going to ask, what is light language channeling? So I think Maggie described it really well. And there are other, like the light language channeling is a pretty massive box, let's call it a box, where there's like subsections of things happening. And so before we get into that, because I can tell that I'm talking weird already, I apologize if I'm talking weird. We can maybe get into this later, but before we did the codes, they didn't want me to do the codes, so I had some injuries to my jaw. And so it's this process, but it's making me talk really weird now. So I apologize if it's like lispy or weird. I actually do have an issue. It's like a jaw issue. And okay, so now that that is out of the way and I don't have to feel self-conscious about me,
it's not
like
normal to me, just to let you know.
Okay, so light language is a big box of different types of, let's say, languages. One of them is a soul language, and this is all energy. This is all part of you. But each person has their own like soul signature. So you would have a unique language that is unique to you, and that's one aspect of it. Another aspect is ways of connecting with your teams, your guides, your angels, to speak like the harmonics of nature, of the earth, of the world. And it's a form of channeling, just like Maggie said. But it comes in all different, it comes in all different ways. There's no right or wrong way to do it. You feel it. Mm-hmm. And then on the other side of the spectrum, there is light language that is actually galactic language. And so I used to be really good at studying these. And like, if somebody was speaking, I could say, hey, you're speaking Syrian, or hey, you're speaking this dialect of, like Arcturian and like Palladian. And but I stopped doing that, not because it was wrong, but because it took me away from some of the concentration of like why I was doing it, of like the power of it just in its raw self. Now I'm still fascinated with language in general, and Maggie, you're fascinated with language and words in general too. And so there is this desire for me to know exactly what I'm speaking and get translations. And sometimes those translations come, like when Maggie and I are working, it seems like when we need them, they're there. Because I've noticed lately, like we speak for specific purposes. And then like normally it's like when we're closing up our working, then we'll speak and then we'll get the English translation and then we'll just translate it and then we'll speak again. But that doesn't always happen, and that's not wrong just because you can't translate it. It's more about the frequency, the vibration, and the fact that you as a human are letting go of like the humanness of having to know everything. And that's like the first step to get to channel beings, is you have to learn to let go. And then the other form of light language is like the toning and the singing. And Maggie and I have been practicing that more and doing a lot more of that lately. And that's like the next portion of it. So there's all these different aspects or like subcategories under light language. But the reason it's called light language is because it's a language of pure vibrational light. So like exactly like Maggie said, you can pray for yourself because you don't know exactly what you need, but like the language and the vibration will know. And so when you're speaking these, it attunes all of your inner self. If you think of like the body being like 90% water, it attunes all those water molecules to like vibrate specifically. So it helps to like heal, it helps to bring calm, it helps to bring love. You can do a lot of things with it. And if you don't know how to do it, have you ever trained? That's not training. Have you ever like helped somebody open their light language package? Have you ever helped any clients yet with that?
I never have. I can speak to how mine opened up, but I haven't helped anybody do it before. I imagine that we could do it together, but I wanted to speak about mine because I would go on these groups online and see people speaking these beautiful languages and thinking, wow, they're really talented. I could never do that. And see people writing beautiful codes, light codes, galactic codes, and thinking, well, maybe I can try that. Like maybe that will be my language because it's all light language. It's all forms of expression, and not all species, not all beings speak with words. Some beings speak with light in the air. Some beings speak through movement. Some beings speak through tone alone. There's so many ways to express a language. And when I was trying to write, nothing was coming out. And I was focusing really hard. And spontaneously, my body, my arms started moving and made these shapes. And we're going into these light languagey dance forms. And that was the gateway for me. That was my most natural expression of light language, was the movement. And I wasn't even looking for it. I was trying so hard in these other ways, and I was so frustrated they wouldn't come. But then something else opened for me, which was really beautiful. And from there, I think that helped open me up to receiving expression in light language in other ways. And from there, I would hear people speaking light language and think maybe I could do it. And like a couple words would come out of my mouth. I'd be like, akaru muharua. And I would feel so silly that I would just stop. But I was doing it. I just felt like I was ridiculous, like it was just nonsense. But it's never nonsense. It always means something. So if you're a little bit choppy at the beginning and you're like, ooh, hoo, ku, ooh, he, just keep going. And the more you practice, the more it will flow. And, you'll sound like an expert in no time, really. I think it really takes no time to get into a flow of light language. You're muted.
I'm always muted. I was saying exactly. And I'm glad you brought that up because that totally wasn't in my brain about the movement, but the movement is part of light language. And the glyphs are part of light language. Mm-hmm. And so when we are, if you remember from last week's video or the week before, whenever we did the codes or whenever we're like channeling light language, sometimes Maggie and my hands are moving and we're like signing stuff. And what we're doing is those are like light language glyphs or light language codes. And those are everything from like written light language to like magical codes to help you with things, to help like solidify the stuff that's coming out of our mouths and stuff like that. And and all of that stuff is channeled. Because if it wasn't, it would be very difficult. It'd be very difficult to be like, no, I'm gonna like make like a, But yeah, and then for those who write stuff down, like, okay, even if you draw little pictures, like I'll show you. So like this was done a long time ago, but even this is like light language glyphs, even though they look like hieroglyphics. But it can be anything from like that to, actually, I haven't done this in a long time. Remember when I made that one? We were working with a group that day when I made that one. I don't remember. I think maybe it's just go like that. Did something like this. And like each one, I think there was 5 people in our group. And like each one had their own specific little circle. But I mean, I just doodled. It's just doodling. It's doodling and making like little squiggles and stuff. And that's what light language is. It's just going with the flow.
And trusting that the doodling or the speaking is not just gibberish, that if you trust in that moment that you're bringing through something, you're bringing through something, even if it doesn't make sense to you in the moment, or even it looks like or sounds like gibberish in the moment. I bet you if you recorded yourself or drew it on the page and you go back and look at it a week later, you'd be like, wow, that looks like something impressive, or that sounds like something that's real. And even if it doesn't sound like a language with words, I've heard people channel the language of planets and it just sounds like a pure tone. But within that tone, they are saying so much and so much energy is coming out. And maybe that's your language. Maybe that's how you start. And don't think that if you're just doing one tone, then you're not necessarily speaking a language, because from what I've heard, that's how planets communicate with themselves, just in these pure tones. So there's so many levels and so many ways of communication. Do not, what's the word? Don't think that anything you should write it off as not light language when you're trying.
Yeah, like don't limit yourself. That's been like a phrase that's been flowing around lately. Don't limit yourself. It's just not something we as humans are used to on this planet. So it seems weird and it seems silly, but if you just go with it, it'll get better. And my suggestion for you is to practice in the shower and just hit your chest like this, however you want to do it, like this. And then just start off with like la, 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 or ta, 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 or da, 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 and then just see where it takes you. Because if you do that, if you do da 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 asta oti an ada ada uko oto osko ono, you never know where it's going to lead you. And so this here is like opening up that area. That, what is this? You're the chakra
here.
Yeah, that's the heart.
This right here would be the high heart, but I guess it's a place between the heart and the throat, which is where you're kind of getting the information from the heart, and then it's coming up to be expressed through your throat, but it's not brain stuff. It's here.
Right, exactly. And that's the thing with channeling. You have to shut off your brain. Mm-hmm. I mean, like in the beginning, that's what we were taught, to shut off our brain. Now, there is a point where like the brain and the heart go together because they have to function together. But like in order to begin channeling beings, it's good to start speaking light language first, because that'll lower your like human brick walls to be so self-conscious about what comes out of your mouth, and sounding silly and looking silly. Because one of the things that Maggie and I do when we do channel or even speak light language is that we look really weird when we talk sometimes. Like the way our mouth moves, and like, what about like your eyes, Maggie? Do you want to talk about your eyes?
My eyes go like this, they roll back like this, and I look like I'm possessed. And I guess in some ways, like it's a benevolent possession. But yeah, all kind of beings, they have different facial expressions and ways of expressing. So they'll go like this, or like this. If it's a reptilian, sometimes they'll look like they're roaring, or they'll stretch their jaw in really weird ways, or as they're trying to get into your body, they're trying to fit their reptilian figure into your human suit, and it kind of looks a little funny. But you just have to let it go, because it looks funny if you think about a human doing this, but if you think about another being doing this, it looks very normal for how they would move and how they would interact with the space around them. So you just have to let yourself become that and be immersed in it, and know that it's not silly. It's just another being's way of expressing. They're expressing through you in this moment.
And like Maggie's really good about like allowing the more fluid movement, where like the beings can access her energy. So like the way Michael explained it to me is that like when you channel, it's not the whole being per se that like you're channeling with. Like when we channel with Michael, it's just like a portion of Michael. Like even though he's here, it's just like a small portion. So like even though you're fitting the portion of that being, which like if it is a reptilian, it's still the reptilian body. You got to kind of fit that in. Maggie's really good about like allowing her body to move so that it's easier for them to kind of go into your energy centers to do this, to feel like they're in. Or like sometimes when they're in and they start speaking and then they realize that they're not in perfectly, or like, I think someone told me once that they came in sideways, and so they had to like reposition themselves energy wise. And so they stop everything and they had to reposition themselves. But if you can be okay with like crazy movements and like your eyes like flinging backwards and stuff, it's just basically you stepping out of the way.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really hard for humans because you don't want to give up control, but you have to know your teams are there, and you have to know that, you know, Mother and Father God are like, you have to trust and believe, and you have to know yourself well enough to not to know the energies around you, right? So like you're aware at all times of what's going on, and this is the whole part of like knowing yourself and knowing your energies. And so there comes a point where like everybody's like, well, if you channel, like what about the negative things? Well, it comes a point where like it doesn't work that way, because you have to match the like energy in order to channel. So
Exactly. And to that point, if you're a channeler, there are beings who are protective of humans and protective of channelers, who are always monitoring. If you're channeling, you're being monitored in a positive way. And especially if you're new, they're not going to let anything negative into your field, unless, of course, that is your intention and they cannot bypass your free will.
Right, exactly. Devin says, I heard some people say they were activated to speaking light language. Yes, actually, we can do activations. I've done a few for people before. And part of it is like us giving you the codes to have them to open the present in your system to be able to do it. And then part of it is you practicing. So let me just give you an example of like how it worked with the last person that I helped. So I gave her the codes, and then I said, so your instructions now, every time you shower, is to speak something. You have to speak something in the shower, whether it's just like repeating, you know, what we were talking about before, the la, ra, sa, ka, na, or something. You have to do it. And then record yourself. And so she would do this, and then she would send it to me. And then because she was really self-conscious at first, and she was saying that, you know, she felt really silly because they didn't make sense to her. But then when I was able to tell her what language she was speaking, she felt a bit better at it. And then she was sending me more and more and more. And now she's good to go. She doesn't question anymore. She's actually getting her own translations. So do you want to do you want to give them an activation?
Sure. I just need to grab my charger. I don't want my computer to die. I'll be right back.
Yep. So yeah, I think that's something we can totally do for you guys today. We haven't done any light language activations for a while. And so when we give these to you, it's up to you to accept them. So like if you are nervous about it or it's not ready for you yet, you know, you don't have to accept it. It's not that big of a deal. If you choose to accept it, it's going to be there. And the more you practice with it, the more it can activate. Like it can't do anything if you don't do anything. Does that make sense? So like we give you the present, but you actually have to open it. So once you open it, and once you start doing those very simple, you know, two-letter word things, and going like this or going like this, that will ripple through, and it will just like this, and you should be able to pick it up really, really quick. And again, everybody's going to be different. Normally people start out in like one language. From what I've seen, with those who have gotten activations and started, they normally start off with like one language, and then they build from there, and then before they know it, they're like putting different languages together. So oh, you're muted, Maggie. And so, yeah, I think that would be really fun.
What language did you start in, by the way? I started in Arcturian.
Oh. I started in an Anunnaki hybrid, Arcturian Anunnaki hybrid, I think, or Syrian Anunnaki. I don't know. When Max was, when I first started speaking, and I wanted someone to tell me what I was speaking, Max wanted to video me. So like he gave me words, And then he's like, what is the word for earth? And then in my language, I was like, key's the, and he's like, what's the word for baby? And I was like, kate, that's the baby. That's the baby. I'm Italian. No. So somewhere in his archives is like me and my first languages
That's
and him going
awesome.
through the dictionary.
Well, that's
So
also a good tip. That's kind of the way that I started when I wasn't flowing very well. I would be like, well, maybe if I can just try to do words, like I have a dog, like how would I say dog? And then I would say something and I would assume, okay, that's the word for dog. And I would just do it piecemeal like that if I didn't feel comfortable just like flowing into something that gave me a bit of a confidence boost to go into sentences.
exactly. That's a great way to do it. There's a lot of ways to do it. So hopefully you guys can kind of put, like, when you re-listen to this, put a couple things together to try and see if it works. And we'll give you the codes to do it. And then you can just break open your package and you'll be all speaking light language soon. And that'll be really fun.
Yes, since you are asking, Devin, I think for you particularly, I'm sure this will be an activation for everyone too, but I feel an angelic presence with me and with us right now. So I think the angels are coming through to activate you either in their language or they work closely with you and they are here to activate you in the language that's coming to you now.
Excellent. Yeah, I'm excited. Okay. Is there anyone that wants to channel any information or do we just want to do the codes?
Oh, let me see. Since this feminine integration stuff, I'm really on low battery for my channeling, but let me see if there's anyone
Yeah.
who are you? Archangel Sandalphon. I think he has something quick to say. Hold on.
Okay.
Greetings, my dear ones. I am Archangel Sandalphon. Since you are speaking about the process of light language today, I have come through to give you a blessing and a few words of my advice. As humans, you too often question yourself. You are afraid to sound strange. My dear children, sounding strange and sounding different is what this is all about. There are so many different races, so many different beings, so many different collectives who sound strange, who sound different to a limited human perspective. But those of you who are awakened and awakening know that there are no limits and no boundaries to anything. And the beauty of you is that you can see the beauty in all expressions. Embrace the expression of your own self, the beauty of your own expression, and thus you will embrace the beauty of all the expressions that wish to channel their energy through you, that wish to give you their love, their blessings, their alignments. Open yourself. Open yourself and do not feel insecure. This is my greatest piece of advice for you. And after Temple does the activation, I will come through with some energies and codes to relieve the insecure body, the walls that make you frigid like this, that keep you within the box that the Matrix so cleverly has you in. I will bring through codes to break down those barriers for you a bit so that you may be the expansive, beautiful selves that you all are. All are. Excuse me, this is a part of it. Maggie could feel silly right now for allowing the wrong word to come through the mouth, our versus our. But as an angel, I am not used to forming my mouth into human words, and even I make mistakes sometimes. So never think that you are doing anything wrong. We are all learning together. We are all in this beautiful playground of God's creation together. I hope that you can see your lives, your worlds as such, and I am here to help you hold that energy today. Thank you.
Thank you. Bosatayata no satulosho. Wopataya kata askata lana niato kuposhukoto tati ana tata poto tati tata nana askata tukulu uto joboto unuku. Kasata tari alun no pukota tasha kuta anaskata I o una tapo ulu shukoton ni manana ala bushukuta patia tata 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 Whoosh. Vuoshata papuada kiata skatiata kupushikotia katatata kiata toto pushkatiata kototo. Masalatiataska. Namaste.
Suru turea luhu ruaya ioso iso hiaha jarastati sunumasatu yea hala huyea husu halaha hala huyaha hala huyaha. Allow the tensions in your throats to release so that you may receive a more expansive way of expression, that you may not be limited. Halaushi asanashtata, shandoru handasa huseasata, hinsayasa, 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 hisi isahasa musuhasata, husunusayasa, isayasata, sisaya, 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 hitala hasati hamanoko sataha, lasta tihe amasahe, isi uno haya, haya haya usu hayata, liha liha liha, mahala hati akasa, hita hata hahuyaha, hana hasati, hasatu ukusu ihaya, na hali yahanasi. Namaste, my children.
Yeah. I have a lot of energy. I can feel it. Like,
You know, I feel it beaming out of my heart center still.
Amazing.
I feel it slowing down now for
I don't
me.
know. Yeah, I can too. I don't know if any of you can feel that. Let us know if you can. You will have to keep us posted now, Devin, how you're doing, and we'll help you.
Yes. The shower, like Temple said, is my favorite place to practice. It's the best.
Yes, and because the water carries information and carries its own code.
Mm-hmm.
So if you do your intentions and you speak well in the shower, it kind of amps things up. Ooh, Devin says, felt it strongly in my heart and chest. Perfect.
Wonderful. Wonderful. I'm so excited for you. I'm so excited to hear how things go with your language.
Me too. I saw, it was very interesting. Like I thought I was going to see like a little present just because like that's kind of how I have it in my mind. But when I was doing it, I saw a pyramid, believe it or not. And it was really interesting because it was a dark pyramid. And then from the back of the pyramid, it was lit by like rays of like, I'm guessing like the sun. And then as it got stronger, the pyramid started turning into like colors of like yellows and oranges and like golds. And then it had like I could see texture. I don't know what it was, if it was just like some sort of texture. I don't know if it was like written word texture or just like texture of some sort. And then it got really bright, like the sun came out in front of it, and then there was this white glow. You could kind of see the pyramid in the back. There was this like white glow as like stuff went from the back and like lit it up through and then kind of came around and like encompassed it. And so if I had to interpret that, I would interpret that as like the beginning of like you have this beautiful like pyramid of knowledge within you, and like it's black or it's like not lit up because it's just something you haven't lit up yet. um it's, you have to choose to do these things. It doesn't just usually happen. Like you have to have some inkling to be like, this is what I'm going to focus on. So now that you focus on it, um the codes came in and like lit it up from the back and then went through it and then encompassed it and lit it up from the front. So it's almost like your synapses or your insides of your selves, your energetic selves are like lit up now with the rays of light and the pyramid. So yeah, so that is what I saw.
Well, I'm not really a seer. I'm more of a feeler. But as Temple was describing what she saw, I was mostly feeling the archangel who was with me. I was seeing all the colors that were coming in as all of these groups who were coming in to lend their energy to the codes and activate the things within you which are related to them, which will help to boost the language that comes with them.
Yeah, exactly. Because part of that also is like opening up, like relaxing, right? Accepting, relaxing. And oh, Tara Tees is here. I felt the energy. Hello, everybody. I felt the energy similar to what Devin was experiencing. Heavy energy in my third eye and the back of my head as well. Yay! So we're just going to talk about this. So the reason you felt it in the back of your head, let's talk about the channeling areas, okay? So obviously the third eye is a channeling area. There is a channeling area in the back of your neck called the angel chakra. There are 2 channeling areas in the front and 2 channeling areas in the back of your head. Did I tell you I have curlers on? My hair wasn't dry, so that's why I'm wearing like a little kerchief. Okay, so the 2 back ones, the reason that you felt it in your back is because those are the ones that are opening up now for you, Tara. And those ones have to do with like spiritual things like the angels that Maggie was just talking about that were with us, the ascended masters. Those are like what the back ones are for. The front ones up here, those are there's two of them, so two in the front, two in the back. Those are like the spiritual ones. The
You mean the like more galactic ones?
Yes, so like galactic, ETs, the people that I talk a lot to, the people of the spirit realm, which is like, Michael and Ramses and all the people who have passed over. This is also like the technological stuff. So like if you wanted to channel the Matrix, remember that one time I was just learning to channel it? I think it was the Matrix that I channeled. It was so weird. And I was like, I feel totally weird, but I feel like I have to channel. So I recorded it. And it was even very like however my voice sounded was very like computery and technologically. I don't remember. That was a while ago, but that's where like the tech stuff comes into. And then the third eye, we're not going to talk much about this, but the third eye needs to work in order to be able to like get the information from all over here. It's pulling. The third eye is like the mouse of the computer system that's like moving around and pulling the information. And then the angel chakra. So like when we're first learning, a lot of beings will use this little back chakra here and they will go in through that chakra. And so as you learn to channel, they'll start using other paths, but like these are the main ones. Like all channelers use them. Once you get very comfortable, you're using them all the time. But it's just a matter of them opening to these channeling energies. And so when you guys are thinking about this and thinking about working on your light language, and you're thinking about this new eclipse that's coming up with the sun, make sure to state your intentions to have your teams and your guides and your people help with opening your channeling centers.
I'm also getting the download right now. What was I even going to say? Oh my gosh. Give me a second. I was going to say something and then I was going to say this, but I totally lost what I was going to say. Oh, I was going to say that usually not all of the channeling centers open at once. It's normally the back ones, the spiritual ones that will open first. And then over time, as you channel more, as you ask or intend to open the front ones, if you want to channel ETs or anything like that, those will open afterward. But the download that I was getting is that everyone who's watching right now, you have at least some portion of your spiritual channels in the back open. So you are all capable of channeling at this moment. They made it, it's very important for me to tell you guys that.
That's awesome. Yay. Tara says, starting to work again with the female Buddhas, the white Tara, the green Tara, etc. Very cool.
Awesome.
Very cool. Yay. All right. So like all this in my phone is going crazy. And hang on just one second. Okay. So where do we want to go from here, Maggie? Oh, I was gonna say that like part of this whole channeling thing is you changing your mindset. Instead of saying like, I don't think I'm doing well, you have to say, I am doing well. Because anytime you like get down on yourself or like feel like you're not doing good, it kind of pushes you back in your own way. And so if you can either be neutral about it or at least find something that you're doing well. Well, today I practiced in the shower and that was good. I mean, that's a good positive thing.
Absolutely.
So try to say like I will and I am, things like that. You need to allow the connection, like Maggie's really good, like allowing the flow, allowing the energy. So part of this is getting the downloads to do it, and part of it is not being afraid or feeling funny, and part of it is allowing the energy flow through you.
I agree. And Yeah, my flow is decent now. There are channelers who are much better at channeling than me, and I acknowledge that I am where I am, and that is how my flow got to be so good. I don't say, if any of you know Jim, Jim is so much of a better channeler than I am. He does this better, he does that better, he does that better, and look at where I am. I'm nowhere compared to him. We all, in every moment, even when we're just at the beginning and we feel like we're stumbling and we're stuttering, that's exactly where you're supposed to be at that moment. And you're doing the absolute best that you can at that moment. You're open in the absolute best way that you can be. You can't go from 0 to 100. And at 0, you're in a beautiful place. At 1, you're at a beautiful place. At 25, you're in a beautiful place. It's not a race. It's not a contest. Every level of what you go through is beautiful, and you should celebrate yourself for it. You learn to laugh at yourself, say, man, like I felt kind of silly doing that, but that's how the being came through to me today. And that's awesome. That was a new experience. And it's only when I learned to start talking to myself like that, even though I would really want to get down on myself, I would want to go and pick apart everything that I did and pick apart everything I thought I did was wrong. I learned to let those things go and say, you know what, I did great today. I did as well as I was supposed to today. I tried and I brought them through as well as I could. And that's great. And I'm great for doing it. And learning to speak about myself that way and regard what I'm doing in that way allowed me to elevate what I was doing, because speaking negatively about yourself holds you back. You're always doing a good job. You're never actually doing a bad job. These are just labels that they put on us to keep us criticizing ourselves. We're always doing the best that we can, and it's not good or it's not bad. It's just, a beautiful expression of where we are in the moment.
Very much. And like Maggie and I do that all the time. The other day, Ra was like, in this QA, he was telling me that he couldn't give me any more information. And so I was like, I know the answer. I think I know the answer. It's, and then whatever I said. And then he goes like this. I can't produce his grin, but it was so cute. And Maggie was when he was channeling, and he like did this whole thing, and then he like threw away the key. and and I was like, Maggie, did you know you did that? So it's just things where like we think, oh my gosh, this is just so weird, but we talk about it all the time to each other. Like the first time I remember practicing, and the first time it was getting really emotional, and like I was like, I'm not crying, and the next thing you know, I was like, I let the being just do what the being wants to do, and I was crying. And so Devin says, is it possible to channel without knowing it?
Absolutely. I think one of our teachers tells us this all the time. If you're talking to your friend and the right advice just pops into your mind, or you get a really good idea from somewhere, like a spark of inspiration, that is often, your guides channeling through you. They often put the thoughts in your head for you to speak, and that's what people call conscious channeling. Just a lot of the time, I think a lot of people don't know they're conscious channeling, but I think especially those of us who are awake are getting downloaded by our people all the time, getting the thoughts put into our heads to speak to the people that we're with. Maybe it's for them, maybe it's for us, but we're always getting guided in a way to speak the right thing. Or when you get that, I don't even know where I got that from. That's usually your guides, and you're usually channeling their information at that time.
Exactly. I would agree with Maggie. I think most people are conscious channelers. They just don't, they're so used to it that you just don't even think about it. Anytime like you're writing a letter, you have a really good idea for something, and like you write it down, and that's your note. Like usually that's channeling, it's just everyday things that we don't think about, because it's not coming through. Like there's conscious channeling, unconscious channeling, and trance channeling. Mm-hmm. Right. So that's conscious channeling. And then unconscious channeling is where I do a lot of unconscious channeling. So when I bring the beings through, I'm still there. I'm just like, I got moved to the back of the bus, but I'm still there keeping tabs on everything they're saying in case it's something I don't want to say. So like, I still haven't let go 100%. And that's why when I channel, I don't use their voices. I hear their voices as they're talking through me, but I don't think it comes out in their voices yet. And that's something else that just comes with allowing and letting go. And I'm not there yet, but I am getting better, because there are some times where we do channel and I'm like, oh wow, that was a really different voice that came through me. And then trance channeling is like where you're taken out completely and you have like a, although when you trance channel, are you out completely? You are now, right?
I'm not a person who yet trance channels. I think I'm moving in that direction, but it's a work of allowing, I think. I've allowed to the point where I have, but to get into a full trance where you're taken out of it and you don't remember the experience of being in your body as this being is channeling through you, that takes a lot of trust, and it's a place I hope to get to, and I can feel myself getting there, but I still have to work on my allowing.
You are. Yeah. So trance channeling, I think, is what everybody thinks of when they think of channeling, but I think we need to think more on like just the basics of everybody is conscious channeling all the time. If you're writing down glyphs, the light languagey things, if you're doodling, that's channeling. That's conscious channeling. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I think that when you start to recognize when you get those great ideas in your head, or those words of wisdom that you don't know where they came from, or those beautiful words that you would write in a letter that you're like, wow, that sounds really good. I can't believe that came out of me. It's good at those times to kind of recognize, oh, I was conscious channeling. That came from my guides because it just popped in there. I didn't have to work my brain around to do that. And if you can get in the habit of recognizing when you're conscious channeling, when they're giving you stuff, it kind of gives you a little bit of a boost if you want to get into more of unconscious channelings, because you're reaffirming to yourself that you are channeling, and you're getting used to the difference between you and somebody else.
Right. And there's like steps you have to go through. Like there's no way that we could just conscious channel. Like you have to build it up. You have to build those energies up. You have to build that trust up with yourself and the beings.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a process, just like anything is a process. So don't ever think that like if you do see a conscious channeler that you resonate with, like it just happened overnight. It doesn't really work like that. They have to work a lot. In my opinion, like the best channelers are the ones that constantly are working on themselves.
Mm-hmm.
They don't just say, oh, well, I channel, so like I don't have to do any self-work. I don't have to do any shadow work anymore because like I channel. Like those aren't the greatest channelers and now that I should speak for myself only. So now that I have an idea of how the whole channeling process works, I've been studying other channelers through this whole process, because I'm always so interested at like taking everything apart and like seeing how it works. And so you can tell, at least I can tell now, when I feel like a channeler is just channeling, but it may not be as pure as it could be, or it may not resonate with me as it resonates with other people. And I think that's perfectly fine. Like you're not the other people, right? So all these channelers are going to bring other different things forward in different ways. Maggie and I channel in very different ways.
Very different.
But, it's still whatever resonates with you. And I just think that's really interesting now that I'm kind of able to, in my opinion, like tell if a channeler still works on themselves as they channel. Like, I don't know, you just, after a while, I think for me, it's about feeling the energy of the channeler. And then also like how they bring through the topics and what the topic is and how it's spoken about. I think for me, those are like kind of dead giveaways as to if they're inserting their own opinions, if their feelings are kind of overshadowing stuff. Because I remember, I think I told you guys this, but I'm going to tell you again. I had this conversation with Michael a long time ago, and I was asking him, like, how come it's so different when you and I talk versus like not everybody, but a lot of people who bring you through, they're very like, oh, like Michael's so sad, poor Michael. And then Michael said it was because when a channeler channels, if they have a feeling of something before going into that channel, like if they know who I am and they feel sad for me or feel mad for me or feel angry at me or if they hate me, like that is going to come through in their channeling. And so in my opinion, a good channeler is someone who can take all of that and put it to the back of the bus and just let the being speak. So that is what I have to say about that. I think it's really important. Like, I think just because someone channels doesn't necessarily mean that they're channeling pure information.
I definitely agree. And I think it's a good topic to talk about too, because we're in a time where, um, there are energetic manipulations and people who are channelers, maybe the beings who aren't the best want to get in there and twist a message that might otherwise be good. And if you're a person who still has a lot of negative attachments to things, densities, unhealed things, undone self work with yourself, you have stronger biases towards things. You have places of negativity or density, more places of density that other energy can latch onto. But the more that you've purified yourself of those things, the more that you've worked on clearing those things out, the more neutral that you can become, non-dual that you can become, the more objective as a channeler you can be. You don't allow your own biases or thoughts to affect the channel, and the channel is more pure. That's something that is very, very important to me. And honestly, most of my channeling practice is not channeling, it's self-work, so that I can be a purer vessel for the energies that would like to channel through me, so that I do not color the channeling in a way that they do not prefer. I think that that's 90% of the work, if that's my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree. And Maggie is constantly working on herself. And that's just something I'm just constantly in awe of. Like, you don't back down, like something comes up and you're like, I'm going to get to the bottom of this. I may be crying for like 4 days straight, but I'm going to get to the bottom of this. And you do. And it like makes you so much stronger and so much more pure in, just your power, what you have to offer everybody, it's amazing. So,
Thank you. Thank you. That's really nice of you to say. But it's also, you don't have to drive yourself crazy doing self-work either. I'm very much a feeler, and a lot of my I'm not clairvoyant, I'm not really clairsentient. I feel the energies of things. So if my energies get in the way, then I can't feel the being in its fullness coming through. And I just feel everything really strongly. So I need to work through my feelings. And that's also an interesting thing to talk about in the differences of channeling. The people that we are also color our channeling a bit, or they use us for what we're good at. I'm someone who's very much a feeler. I deal very well in the language of feelings. So they can channel emotion through me very well. They can get emotion across to other people very well. They can get energy in the emotional field across to other people. I'm not as talented in the technical, detailed aspects, how Temple is, but I'm really, really good at sending the energy of feeling and affecting people with the energy of feeling, and the beings come through me and they can do that well through me. And through Temple, she's talented in all these different ways. So her channel comes through is very much different from mine, even if we're channeling the same being.
Right, exactly. They use me a lot of times to deliver messages that shouldn't be, that might be hard to deliver, but they need to be like straightforward, because it's important that the message gets across, not trying to color it one way or color it another way, or be nice about it or give it a cushion. I'm really good at bringing those type of messages forward to like brass tacks, just to get things out and get things done. And then I'm also really good in details of stuff. So if they need to explain something in great detail that is maybe more technical, that has a backstory, that is one of my abilities. that they use. And so like Ra comes through me differently than Maggie. Mm-hmm. With Maggie, and I like the way Maggie brings Ra through more so than myself, because Maggie is able to attach onto his feelings. She's able to bring through like a more of a well-rounded personality, where like if I would channel Ra, it's going to be straightforward. It might be a little loud, and it would be to the point. Like there would be no feelings in it whatsoever. And while I think it's good for certain things, like I like it much more. I like it much more the way Maggie brings him through. Can I bring him through a thing? I probably could, but the last few times I have, actually all the times I haven't felt that it's been with a lot of feeling anyway. And so, and it's very interesting. Like they also use your words, your way of speaking. And so while you have channelers that have been practicing for such a long time, that they're really good at bringing through not only the mannerisms of the being, like this is like when I talk about this, I can specifically talk about like Michael and Ramses. So when you know a being so well, that you can pick up little tics that they have and like little facial expressions and ways they string their words together. When a channeler can do that, can bring that through, can bring some of their specific wording that they use, you know, if they have like a favorite word that they throw in, that is an amazing channel. And just because you have an amazing channel or you find an amazing channel that channels for you doesn't mean that it's going to always be the same all the time, because it greatly depends on the stresses that the person who is channeling is going through in their everyday life. But usually those nuances, those little ticks only happen when you're trans channeling, I think, to the full amount. They can happen when you're what's the other one? Unconsciously channeling. I think some of those words can come through, some of the phrases can come through. But like, I mean, I have things so well organized and down pat that like if when I'm in with a channeler with like Ramses or Michael, if they raise up a word a certain way, like go hi, or like if it's a specific thing like that, I can know immediately if it's like Michael or Ramses, or because I know their vocal inflections and I know exactly like how high they would pitch things, or like depending on how high they pitch things, I know if like Ramses is like angry or like exactly how he's trying to make something come through. And that happens when you know the being so well from so many lives and you have a really good channeler that you can pick those things out. Now, that's like the tops of the tops. Like don't expect all of your channelers to do that, because I don't think very many channelers are that good to do that. But I do think it's something to strive towards. And how that's done is trans channeling, letting go and trusting and allowing the being to do what the being does. I don't know where I was going with this.
That was a great anecdote, though, because I never thought about that the inflection part. And I think it's very well said, to your point of it really does depend on the kind of state that your channeler is in. If your channeler is burnt out or they had a hard day and they're tired, a lot of times those nuances won't come through, you know. So if you're a channeler, it also speaks to why you have to be really diligent with your energy and be tip top with your energy, because if you're channeling for people, you don't want to give one person a great channeling because you're in a good mood, and then you get in a bad mood and give someone else a subpar channeling. Maybe the information will be good, but they won't feel the person they love coming through fully. It's so much, I don't know how I'm back at this, but so much of it is about energetic maintenance to me, and energetic integrity.
Yes, definitely. And like I've experienced this myself with channelers, that like the information of the being channeled is pure, it's good. I know it's the being, but it's just like okay. Like it's and that is more than likely because of personal things that the channeler themselves are going through, or that they're really exhausted, or so the information can still be really good. It just really depends a lot on the channeler themselves, and that's why the energy work and the maintenance and everything is so important. If this is something that, if it's different when you're like sitting around a table, and like I've done this before where I have employees here and we're working, and then we're sitting around a table labeling, and all of a sudden, I think it was Archangel Metatron was like tapping me on the shoulder. And he was like, I have a message. I have a message for one of your employees. I was like, dude, we're working. I don't channel, like we're working. And like he just was very insistent. And then I went upstairs to run to the bathroom, and I said, like, we're busy, we're working. I'm not going to bring this through now. And he's like, no, there's a lull. And I was like, no, like, we're pretty busy. So I got downstairs, and there's like a lull. And he's like, see, I told you so. I have a message. So I did deliver the message, but it's like, when you're channeling for friends and stuff and practicing, it's a little different than having that business where you are channeling every day or every other day. It can take a toll on you if you don't know how to work on yourself and work on your energy and maintain that. And it's taxing. Like, people think that channeling is okay. Channeling is fun, but people think it's really easy. Like, oh, they just like go into this channeling thing, and like, it's not that big of a deal. Well, it kind of is a big deal, because you have to prepare yourself for the channeling, and then you have to have the energy to match their energy, and then you have to be able to have enough energy in a good place, like work on yourself and be in a good place where you can kind of have a conversation with the being, and so like what's going on, and then they come in you and they do their thing, and then they leave, and usually it leaves you feeling pretty rejuvenated and refreshed and exciting and all that stuff. But then after a couple during the day, like, it's great, but then all of a sudden you're like, boom, I'm so exhausted.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yes.
Let's read some. Oh, I'm sorry. Do you want to comment?
I just wanted to say, did I want to say anything? I don't want to make it sound like to channel, you have to be perfect in your energy, and like you have to make sure, you're doing this and this and this and this. Ideally, all of these things, if you're on a spiritual path, should be happening in conjunction, and you should be doing it with joy. You shouldn't be like whipping yourself, being like, I gotta get my energy right if I want to channel, because I've done that before and it's not fun and it takes all the joy out of it. And everything in your spiritual life, your spiritual work should be done in a basis of joy. These are just things to keep in mind if you are learning to channel or want to learn to channel, that might help you get into that vibration a little bit easier. But by no means do you have to be really hard on yourself and everything, the planets have to be aligned, everything has to be perfectly aligned. No, it's just helpful to know these things.
Yes, I think that's a very good addition, because it is true. Like, because I'm a detail person, I pick these things out, but that's just details. Like, it doesn't mean anything really, like, to learn to channel is to learn to channel. You don't have to be perfect to do it. And I'm sure as heck not perfect. So, but that's okay. I'm good in my imperfection. Like, that's the only way I can be, because, oh Lord, it would be terrible if I was like perfect. Okay, let's read some of these. So, Devin says, "Is it possible to channel without knowing?" Okay. And then I thought so. It seems that that's happening to me often. And then Tara T says, "It's such a great conversation, ladies. I do use trance channeling for over 20 years. I used to do trance channeling for over 20 years, but stepped back from it because I had to learn to discern better. Good description on different types of channeling."
Thank you.
Do we have any other comments for that? I think, so you're not channeling anymore? Or are you getting back into it? Or, and then, hey Val, hey Jody. And then Jody says it's very draining to me to channel. I think the reason it gets draining to channel is because of the preparation work. I'm a firm believer in like preparation work before you channel, just to help kind of like ground your energies and like get them ready. I don't know, like I'm just trying to think why it would be very draining for someone.
Well, I think it depends. I know if you're not well hydrated, channeling is going to be draining for you. For whatever reason, when you go into channel, the being, when they come in, they use up a lot of the water in your body, and you'll often come out feeling like you need a drink so badly. So make sure you're hydrated before, because that might be part of what's draining you. Are you channeling for other people? Maybe that's what's draining you. Maybe you're channeling for other people, and through channeling for them, when you're doing energy work with someone, there's always some kind of cord that's made with you and that person. And if you're not diligent in your cord cutting maintenance, which I had to learn the hard way, I would feel so drained for the whole day after, because my energy would still be attached to this person who was maybe having a hard time or in some kind of energy healing phase where they were depleted. So I would feel depleted. There's a lot of reasons that you could feel drained after channeling.
Yeah. And then again, then we go back to like the whole taking care of yourself thing as like how to help with that. Cause you are right. There's a lot of, and I totally forgot about the water, which is really weird. Cause remember the other night, Maggie and I got done doing some work and we were so tired and we're like, we're going to go to bed. And then all of a sudden I text her and I was like, Maggie, are you thirsty? Like I just drank like 5 glasses of water. I'm so thirsty.
And I was like, yeah, don't you know, after you always get thirsty after channeling.
I heard that was like a week or so ago from Maggie. It never dawned on me that you get thirsty when you channel. So I'm always learning new things. Okay, so Tara says I need to practice going deeper again. When I first started learning, I don't know about you, Maggie, but when I first started learning, I had to learn by a metronome. And so I had one on my phone, and this helped me to relax enough to be able to close my eyes and just listen to the tick tock. And if I would focus on the tick tock, I could let myself go enough that I could actually start to feel the beings better or hear them better, the ones that wanted to channel with me. And so it was really just a method for me to kind of know what that feels like or know what state I needed to be in. So if it's something that you're interested in, I would definitely start with a metronome. It worked for me, and I think it helped me understand things a lot quicker. I don't think I could have picked it up as quickly as far as like feeling where I needed to be if I didn't have that metronome.
I think that the metronome is good. I think it's probably different for everyone, but in my getting deeper and deeper into the channeling state, it's all about being able to disengage the active mind, which is why the metronome is so good, because it gives the mind something to focus on. So it's not thinking, well, is the being in me? What are they going to say? Am I going to do a good job? You know, all of these worries, because you're just focusing on the metronome going back and forth. But that, in my opinion, is just a tool for disengaging the brain. So the more that you can get your brain out of it, the more that you can really stop your brain from thinking anything and kind of be floating in a meditative state, like a deep meditative state. That's what I equate it to. That's when the beings can come in more fully, when your brain is just in this totally zen space. And again, that's why I think the metronome is so good, because it kind of gives your brain something to focus on, so it's not thinking all the time. And it's kind of hypnotizing too. You know, it puts you into that meditative state as well.
It is. Like I always thought I was one of those people who wouldn't be able to like do the TikTok and then like be able to be hypnotized. But I found it was so relaxing that I probably could. I don't know, like, because I think in order to fully do that, when people are like, oh, you're going to act like a silly clown now, I think you have to really let go. And I don't know if I could do that. Like, I would trust the beings more to channel than I would trust somebody in front of me telling me to like act like a silly clown. You know what I mean?
But if you're one of those people who is really susceptible to hypnosis, I bet that channeling would come easy for you, because it's easy for your mind to let go.
Yeah, that's very true. Or like if you already do a lot of meditation or do a lot of grounding or just do a lot of centering where you're just chilling out with like yoga and like, you know, your what do they call that? The music where they have the specific hertz, you know, like you know what I'm talking about? Binaural beats, I think the hertz. It probably like that's kind of how when I before I was channeling and I was meditating a lot. I mean, I still try to meditate at night. I use a lot of those binaural beat things to do that, or the specific hertz music in order to do that. And then after practicing and feeling comfortable with yourself, it becomes easier and easier every time you do it. The trick is not to give up on it though, because in the beginning, you can get really frustrated when you're feeling like stuff's not happening as fast as it should, or like it's not going as quickly as it should, or you're not receiving information the way you should. Um, I think it's really important to hang in there. And in those cases, when you do get into these meditations, to try to remain as calm as possible and then think of all the senses and see if you're actually feeling or hearing or seeing or knowing in a different way than what you thought it should be. And I think that helps too. Because like when I channel, they use my senses. So because I can see, they sometimes will be talking about something and then showing me movies in my head. And I would think that that's different for everybody. Like for Maggie, they probably give you like so much feeling about stuff that you can almost like you just know what they're talking about or like what's going on or the deepness of it according to like how you're feeling.
Yeah, it's very much a language of its own, the feeling state. They will use whatever senses are strongest in you. If you're very sensitive and a feeler and you're trying to get into channeling, you know, they might not even say anything for the first few times. When I first started channeling, I was like, I'm a bad channeler because they're not saying anything and I can't get any words out. But they were trying to show me, I didn't know it back then, that my strength is feeling, and they were trying to show me their feelings as they came into my body, came into my being. And they were trying to get me used to that because now that's how I read it. But back then I was just like, well, if I'm going to channel, then I have to say the words and I have to say what you want to say perfectly. And I didn't realize that they were trying to show me something. So always know what you're good at and know how they might try to speak through you. Know what your languages are, because that's probably where they're going to go to first when you first start channeling. And it's okay if you don't say anything for the first few times either. We do channeling with a friend, and sometimes in the beginning he wouldn't say anything and he would get frustrated. And then after he got frustrated once, I channeled for him because someone wanted to talk to him and they told him, you did perfectly. We didn't want to talk. We wanted to share our energy with you. So that's channeling too. Even if I'm just sitting here and I let the being in and they don't say anything and their energy is emanating from me to Temple or to you, I'm still channeling because I'm channeling the energy. And a lot of the time, the energy is the most important thing anyway. They want to share some energy with you, and the words are just icing on the cake. So really don't put limits on it, I guess is what I'm saying.
Exactly. And sometimes the energy is more important than the words that they're giving out. And I was thinking when you're talking about like saying the stuff, like that was one of the hardest things for me was I could feel the being there. I could have the conversation telepathically with the being, but I didn't want to speak because I assumed that they would open my mouth for me.
Oh,
Just like with the automatic writing, I assumed somebody would take my hand and like make it work, you know. But same with automatic writing, like you actually have to move your hand. You're just hearing or feeling or knowing and it'll just go, but you have to you have to move your hand. And it's the same thing with channeling. Like, and this still happens. This is why it takes me longer sometimes to get into the channelings. It's because I can feel that the being is in there with me and I could start like talking if I wanted to, but it's so important for me to establish conversation with that being first for me to feel comfortable enough to know that I'm going to let that being speak through me. And I think part of this is just from my past experiences and programs and stuff. I'm still working on the trusting portion of it and the accepting portion and the flowing portion of it, because in the past I always had to make sure I was so safe. I had to check things over and over and over, and now it's more about knowing and feeling and allowing. And so I can sit there and the being and I can talk, and all of a sudden, like, they'll say, okay, open your mouth. And then they'll start talking and they'll say, hi, I'm Michael. And today I'm going to talk about, but then my mouth doesn't move. And then Michael's like, Temple, open your mouth. Hi, I'm Michael. Today I'm going to talk about, and then I won't open my mouth. And then he'll say one more time, he's like, I'm going to talk, open your mouth. And then I'll open my mouth and it'll say, hi, I'm Michael. Today I'm going to talk about blah, blah, blah. So the actual like physical you taking control of opening your mouth is very, very important when you channel. They're not going to do it for you. And that's like the whole free will thing. I think that comes down to the free will thing here on the planet. So, who knows? Maybe you guys are like even ready to do it. You just didn't know about the open mouth thing. I sure as heck didn't know about it. I thought it was the same as what I first thought automatic writing was, but it's not.
I think that's the most challenging barrier to get over when you're starting to channel. It's like when we were talking about light language before. If you open your mouth, it will come. But it seems sometimes more challenging with channeling because your brain gets crazy thinking that it has to form something that's coherent and it has to maybe impress somebody. So saying hello, not knowing what's going to come next, it's a tough mental barrier when you're just starting out. But you just have to do it. Just like when you're doing light language, you just have to open your mouth, just say the hello. Or sometimes when I'm feeling nervous and I don't know what to say at first, they'll tone or something. They'll go like ha or ha, and then it will flow into the hello. So as long as you have to initiate it with your voice, and once you do, you'll be surprised at how well it flows. As long as you don't let your nervous brain get in the way, you trust that they're going to say what they want to say. But yeah, it is. I don't know why that's the rule. I guess it's the free will thing that you have to be the one to open your mouth and get the sound frequency out of your mouth, like speak it first, and then they'll take over.
Right, exactly. And then like usually what happens with me is the first minute or so is like a little choppy because I am not fully letting go yet. So if I can get past the first few sentences, then it'll start flowing. And the longer I'm channeling, the more it will flow. So it's not always me blocking it in the way of not wanting to say something or wanting it to be something else. Sometimes it's just me like hovering, which I don't know if that makes sense, but like instead of just allowing the being to be there and speak, like it's almost like, okay, we had this conversation. I finally feel comfortable opening my mouth, and so you can speak, but I'm still going to be here for the first at least couple sentences. And so it's always kind of wonky, the first few things I say, but then all of a sudden it'll kind of get into this nice flow. And then when I've went to the back of the bus.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of how it works for me. And I think it works a little bit different for everybody else. But for me, it is very important to feel comfortable knowing whom I'm channeling. And even sometimes I even will have them tell me what they want to talk about. Sometimes it doesn't matter what they want to talk about because you just trust. But it always, for me, helps me to be like, hey, so what's the topic today that we're going to talk about? Do I always get that information? No. And sometimes, like Michael will come through and I'll be like, what are we talking about? He's like, I'm not going to tell you because you need to learn to trust. And that's happened as well. So it's really about however you establish the connections with your people and with the beings that are coming through to make you feel comfortable. Because if you're not comfortable, it's not going to work.
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree. And I think I keep saying that's the hardest part, but like it's something to get used to be comfortable in that state and to give yourself over to someone else's words. It's just this weird human mental barrier that we have, speaking things that we aren't sure what they're going to say, we feel like we have to do a good job, when in reality, we just need to let them say what they're going to say. And I think the more that we can get our own ego out of it, the better channelers that we become. But it takes practice, like Temple said, the first few sentences, sometimes, it takes a few seconds to get into the flow, or it takes a few sessions to become smoother as a channeler. But I always, ever since I started channeling, I always just say, well, I'm just clearing the pipes right now. I'm clearing the pipes, like the pipes need to be cleared, and then it will be smooth. But at the beginning, when you always have to clear the pipes, that's how I say it to myself.
Right.
Am
And
I
so
still
like,
on?
yes, you are still on. I know it just said internet connection, but we're not doing anything that's like mind blowing tonight. So they shouldn't be kicking us off. So I was going to say, what was I going to say now? I thought it was really important, but I guess it must not. Oh, I was going to tell you guys like what I do to help myself calm down, relax, and like get into channel, because everybody usually has their own, whether it's like a prayer or a mantra or like whatever, their own little meditation thing that they do while they're going down to allow the being's energy into channel. And so for myself, I do a lot of breathing. I think breathing is really important. I usually make sure that my feet are on the ground. So I am connected and grounding in. And the first thing I do is I ground into Gaia. I connect up into Mother, Father, God. And then I talk to my brain and I'm like, hey, brain, I'm shutting you down for a little bit, but don't worry. You're going to get turned back on. You just have to go through the heart. So like, you're technically not shut off, but you're not allowed to really like speak or do anything. The heart's going to do it all. But don't worry, I'm coming back in just a little bit. And then I'll do some more breathing, and then I'll just relax and say a little prayer sometimes, kind of depends. But like I have my own little thing now that I do. And I think Maggie's got her own, and every channeler probably has their own. So you just kind of have to kind of figure out what works for you. So.
Oh, I agree. Maybe one day we could do a bit of, we could go through the process and go down into the channeling state. If people would be interested in that, then you could at least get a feel for how it feels. If you're interested in channeling, let us know if that's something you're interested in doing, and we can absolutely talk you down. Temple and I talk each other down, or ourselves down, similarly. And I think probably all channels have a relatively similar process. I think the details differ, but it's all about getting into the state. So if you guys are interested in us helping you with that, please let us know, and we would definitely be happy to do a bit of a channeling lesson.
I was gonna say, did we talk about the back doors? The channeling back doors?
We did not yet, but it's totally slipping my mind what we wanted to talk about when it comes to that.
Well, so like when you have your channeling centers open, so you work with the third eye, you tell your third eye like you want to work on your channeling centers, you work on your meditations, you work on like grounding yourself, all this stuff. But then once you get it, once you kind of figure out what works for you in channeling, the channeling centers in your brain are going to work differently depending on who you are, depending on your makeup. And so for mine don't necessarily, at least this is what I've been told. Ramses was talking to me about this one day. So like he doesn't come through, he has like two people that he goes through for channeling. I'm one of them, and then he has another one. He doesn't like to go through people for channeling, but the thing is, like with him, he has specific things he wants to say, and he may be thinking something else, but he won't say it. And so one of the things that I am able to do for some reason, and he's not really sure, well, he says it's our connection, but I can do this with a few others as well, not everybody. But for certain beings that I have a connection to, they don't go through the normal channels. They go through what is considered the back channels. And I don't know quite what the back channels mean. It's not the back of your head channels. It's like backdoor channels that that are specific to you in a way that you bring the information through. And so for myself, if I do channel Ramses, there was one time where Maggie, I was channeling with you, and I was channeling something, and he was talking to you, and then all of a sudden I started saying something that was very soft, and like I'm working on that too, and like
Yeah,
I don't remember what he. Do you remember that?
Uh-huh.
So then, like while I was channeling, I'm able to have conversations sometimes with the beings. Like they're always talking to me. Sometimes more than others, I can have a separate conversation from what's going on. And so I had asked Ramses, like while he was talking out of my mouth, I was like, "Is this really what you wanted to say? Like we just did that, we said that." And then later on, he came to me and he's like, "Listen," he's like, "I wasn't going to say that, but I now realize that you go through these back channels and you're able to pull my deepest thoughts of what I'm actually thinking versus what I wanted to say." And I was like, "Oh wow, like I'm sorry."
I forgot that you said that.
And he's like, "Just don't embarrass me." So I was
thought
like,
that
"Oh, you
he felt really comfortable with me, but you pulled it out of his brain.
feel comfortable with you." Like he does really like you, and he would talk to you, or like he wouldn't necessarily talk to other people. He has his certain people that he doesn't mind talking to, and you're one of them.
I feel very privileged.
Yeah, so like same thing with Michael. Like I can pull hidden thoughts, or like, and that's like one of my talents. Can I do that for everybody? No. I think in order for me to do that, I have to feel very comfortable with that being in order to do that. And like even when Metatron was talking through me for a while, I like there was something him and I had to work out personally. So like I didn't feel quite as comfortable channeling him as I do now, because we had some unfinished business we had to take care of. So that's what I want to say about back channeling. Like your channeling centers are going to be the first that open, the two in the back and the two in the front. But then after that, you will kind of make your own channeling pathways of what works best for you to like pull the information from the being, or for you and the being to work together to get the best information out.
Yeah.
Yours are different too, right, Maggie?
Yeah, mine are, as I've been saying, more feeling. My channels have opened up where I can really, really tap into what the being is feeling at that time. I can really feel like their whole energetic feel, their emotional signature, which is helpful to me because that's how I understand things, through feeling. And I can, I don't, I'm not as good with words as Temple, which is why I'm struggling with words now. I'm talking about the feeling and it's hard for me to make words out of it.
It's so weird because like you are much more of a wordsmith than I am when it comes to words. So that's very interesting. Like I was just thinking it would be interesting for Ramses to come through you, simply because he would have to trust you enough. Because I bet you could tap into like the deep feeling. Because I'm wondering, you know how he's got these levels, right? Of like the public Ramses and the private Ramses, and like somewhere in between. If he would allow you to kind of tap into that in between, or if you'd be able to pull those emotions from underneath versus just what he chooses everybody to see. Does that make sense?
Oh, I wonder. It would be really interesting. I feel like he's saying in my head, like, don't you even try to do that.
He's probably like, why did Temple have to go bring that?
But it is interesting to talk about this because we all have these unique and interesting ways of channeling. And the way that I would channel Ra, he uses me differently than he would use Temple, which I don't know if a lot of people talk about this, but I have had concerns from people that I work with, because a being sounds different when they come through me versus when they come through someone else, and the information seems a little bit different, even though it's kind of the same. Um, I think I don't know quite how to say this, but I think it's important to talk about because everybody is going to channel the same being differently, and nobody is going to channel the same being in the exact same way. And on that note, no one is going to channel information in exactly the same way, because there are so many perspectives to a single truth. So one perspective might come through me, another perspective might come through Temple, but that doesn't mean that either one of them is false. And I think that a lot of people are getting really tripped up by that right now, and not knowing who to trust, and not being able to trust their discernment because the information isn't lining up, or the vibration isn't quite lining up how they recognized it in another place. But it's important to take the channel into consideration as well. And Temple and I have been talking about this a lot.
Yeah, I think we have some big issues right now in general with the populations on this planet, because they're not in tune with themselves, because they don't really know what self-worth is, or they have like a false self-worth. They are unable to really know themselves and know that feeling of discernment, whether something is resonating with them or not, or what portions it's resonating with them. And so I think, so first off, I think it's very easy for manipulations to happen this way because people are so used to being and feeling and living in a specific way that they have lost touch with their true selves. And I think this is what leads to all these questions about, well, so-and-so didn't bring it through exactly like so-and-so did. And it's not necessarily, it shouldn't be about how, it should be more about how you resonate with it. Like, not necessarily like how they brought it through with like the words that they say, if the words weren't quite right, but you should feel it inside. Like, but I think the problem is that because people don't know who they are, they don't really have a good guidance system for what they feel to be true. And so they're easily swayed, kind of like they're constantly going back and forth. And it drives them crazy because they want to have the truth, but they don't know what their own truth is to be able to discern the truth of how they feel others are delivering things. If that makes sense.
Yes, it makes a lot of sense. And I think that it's not easy. I mean, we're so conditioned to not be tapped into ourselves, to not feel our emotions, to hate ourselves. Like, how, of course, they keep us like this because they don't want us to be able to feel good about ourselves, number one, and to be able to discern what's true and what's false. They just, based on information. Who do you think has the best information? But nobody teaches us how to accept what feels good to us. If the information sounds good and it doesn't feel good, then it's not right for you and you should not accept it. If it sounds weird and it feels good, maybe it's something to open your mind to. It's important to fine tune your own antenna and trust that, not what other people tell you to trust, or what other people tell you to listen to, or what other people tell you is the truth. Because the truth for me might be different than the truth for you, but that doesn't mean that either one of them is false.
Right. And we've experienced this on a very personal level a lot through our growing and learning, where like when we're always learning and working on discerning energy. But for me specifically, I'll talk about a few of my experiences. Because they know that, like, let's just use Ramses and Michael. Because they know that Ramses and Michael and my relationship is so solid, they would know that I would know their energies. Okay, so you know where I'm going with this, Maggie? Okay, so we've had a few circumstances where whomever they are, they try to manipulate the energies of your loved ones. Okay. And so like, it is so close. It is so unbelievably close that like you're doing whatever you're doing and your energy of your loved one pops in and you're like, oh, hey, you don't even think about it. And then all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, something doesn't quite feel right. Like it is so close. I should just blanket over it and say like, yes, this is perfect. This is my loved one. But there's just this twinge of something that isn't right. And what I've learned is that anytime there is one minute thing that seems off, it's off. It's not them. And this is something that both Maggie and I have experienced in our own ways to better teach us that manipulations aren't always easy to spot or easy to know or easy to see. You really have to feel it. And the only way you're going to truly feel it is when you're solid in yourself and you know that you can trust yourself. And there's been ridiculous manipulations attempted with Ramses and I, and it doesn't work because I have that solid foundation of like, if one tiny thing is off, I don't accept it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and like that's where we need to be. I think as a collective, we need to have that solid grounding in that to be able to discern some of this information and these energies and manipulations going on. But in order to get to that point, it's all about practice, and you have to kind of recognize it. You have to feel comfortable talking to somebody about it. And that's one of the reasons that like we're working on getting these things for you guys every Wednesday, because we realize that we as a collective don't probably have the kind of outlet that we need for some of these things to happen, to be able to talk about and to be able to kind of get to the bottom of, to know that you're not alone in some of these experiences, and to better be able to talk to someone or get their opinion so you can better trust yourself when these things happen. And like Maggie and I are the backboard. Like we're constantly like, how was your night last night? Like, you know, how is everything going? Or like all of a sudden when we have these aha moments, we're like, you're never going to guess this. And so it's just, it's constant back and forth. But the beautiful thing about that is that it allows us to recognize and work on stuff together. And I think we need more of that. We need more of people coming together to help each other with those things, to get into groups where nobody is better than anybody else. We're just all here as a collective to try and better ourselves and better each other. And I think that's what needs to happen. And that's what we're working towards with.
All about. And as you were talking about that, they're like talking in my ear. I think it's Raw and maybe some feminines, Sekhmet, maybe, I don't know. Some strong feminine is here saying that if it would be something that's of general interest, and I think it's important right now, we should do a live on discernment. Maybe we can do it when it comes in with maybe doing the channeling lesson. We can teach some discernment tools, or if people have questions about their own discernment, having trouble discerning things, because that's what me and Temple do with each other all day. Like, how does this sound to you? Does this sound right to you? Is there something off with this? Can you give me some perspective? That's why we're here for you guys. That's part of the reason why we're here for you guys. So I think that we should dedicate some time to this, because it is important, especially right now, the being strong in our discernment.
Yeah, and I think in order to do that, we should allow the room open so people can tell their stories.
Yeah.
Because one of the unique things with Maggie and I is that we can help in a way in which is different, but because it's different, it comes together. Like I have half of it, she has half of it. We're like, I'm able to, if I hear you talk, I can jump in there and I can see exactly what you experienced. And then Maggie can feel it, and like we can work through it that way. And so I think it'd be very important, something to do relatively soon, and open the room for that. Is that something, everybody's kind of quiet on the chat, is that something you guys would be really interested in? Because I think to me, at least in this now moment, it seems like, I don't know what Ra's plans are, but it seems like something that should come up relatively soon.
I think so too. And if you're nervous about being on camera, don't be nervous about being on camera. It's the most nervous thing ever for me to be on camera. But I consider us all friends here, and we're all on the same level, and we all want to help each other out. And I consider us an equal collective. So I would love to see you guys in person and hear your stories in person. And we could read your energies a bit better that way too, and get to know each
Right.
other better, which is really what it's all about, connection, you know. And so if that's something that maybe you feel nervous about, please don't.
Yeah. Val says yes. Yeah, I think it would be really fun. Hopefully people would feel comfortable enough to come into the room and chit chat with us. But I think that's a really good idea. So yeah, I'm just looking through some of my notes here. Oh, there's a thing on here I highlighted about the throat chakra and how in order to kind of fully allow yourself to speak or like allow the being to speak, working on the throat chakra is a good thing to do to open up um, the vocal power that you have using your throat chakra and your mouth to speak words. Like I think for so many cultures, we have been really what do you call that? Blocked. The throat chakra has been really manipulated in so many, especially like the women collective and like all this stuff. So I think that's another one that would be really good to work on too, is the throat chakra.
Oh yeah, that would be wonderful. And I know that I'm a person who had the hardest time talking. I mean, me and Temple only got close a year and a half ago, maybe. We only started getting close.
Mm-hmm.
And when we first started talking on Zoom together, I wouldn't say anything. I would just be here, and you could just see how nervous I was the whole time, just trying to talk because my throat chakra was so blocked. They put so many insecurities into our throat chakra to bind us and silence us. So we feel like, oh, I'm so nervous. I'm so nervous. I'm nervous about myself. I'm nervous about my voice. I'm stupid. I don't have anything to say. Like I had all those things, and I had so much crap in my throat chakra that I had to clear out. And afterward, I had to practice. I had to just be talking to myself all day, just getting used to exercising my voice. I was voted shyest person, quietest person in class when I was in school. I never talked. Kids would make fun of me and they would call me mute. So if I can do it, if any of you are having trouble with your throat chakra, I guarantee you and I believe in you that you can do it. And I think that we should probably do some codes and send some healing to clear the things that people have in their throat, because I know there's so much there, and that was so much of my problem.
Because I was thinking like both you and I had special healings for that, numerous special healings
Yes.
for that. So yeah, I think I'm gonna write that one down too. So and like we normally would do like a lot of channeling and stuff, but we have been channeling so much lately, working on stuff behind the scenes that we just thought today would be a really nice kind of downtime day where we can talk about maybe like the in and outs of channeling, or like how we channel to kind of help you guys understand better your own channeling, but also when we go into channeling through ourselves, like what's happening with our own processes.
Yeah. I think it's always good to know, to kind of demystify the process too. When I first started watching channelers, I thought that it was so mystical, and they were so ascended and so evolved, and they were doing this thing that I could never do. It seemed impossible. But when you break it down and when you understand how it works, it becomes something that you can do too. And I got to the place where, as I learned these things about it, someone who was nervous about using my voice my whole life and all of that, just all of these blockages I had, and just getting through them and learning the process and the practice. I'm a person who's a competent channeler now. So I think it's good to put these things out in the open so that, there shouldn't be secrets. Everybody who wants to channel should know how to channel.
Right, exactly. And I think it's something that everybody can do.
Yeah.
I don't think it's just reserved for specific people. I mean, we're all having human experiences in these bodies. We're all capable of way more than what they want you to know that
Yes.
that you're capable of. And channeling is just an innate part of you that happens in so many ways. It, it doesn't have to happen in a trans way, but it just naturally happens. And so to become more comfortable with it and maybe recognizing when they are happening, like when you're talking to a friend and something just comes out and you're like, whoa, that was really good advice. I didn't give that advice. I think to just kind of start acknowledging that you realize that it's your team working with you or other beings working with you. That's one way to speed the process up just a little bit, is actually like acknowledging things when they happen.
Yes.
Even out loud, best out loud, but sometimes in your head too is fine, but like it's best out loud. Sometimes, from my understanding, the beings that are around you, like usually there's many beings around you at all times or most times, because they're not all telepathically linked in with you or linked in your energy. They can just be around kind of like a waiting room. Mm-hmm. And be hanging out. And the only way that they would know that you're attempting to talk to them is if you actually use your human words, because the words are what carry the vibration. The vibration is what can kind of translate through the energy and the dimensions to get to them. They can only hear you like telepathically or hear your thoughts when they're kind of sort of connected in with you, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So like, I guess what I'm saying is like, don't just assume that if you think thoughts to them that everybody's going to hear you. It's better if you just look like that crazy person and like say something out loud, and at home it's a lot easier. But I've already done light language I've been on the phone and I've done light language in the grocery store and stuff. And people just think you're talking a different language. They don't know, especially like when it just kind of rolls, they just think that you're probably from a different country. No one's ever looked at me funny.
Oh, I've never tried to do light language in the grocery store. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah. We should put that on the bucket list. Like next time Maggie goes out, she's gonna have to call me and she's gonna have to like speak light language. But you have to go to a place that's like got a lot of people, like a grocery store.
I'll do it. I'll take the challenge. I will.
Okay.
I will unlimit myself in that way.
All right. Awesome. And then I will do it too. I will do it back to you too. So then we both can experience that.
That's awesome. I love doing stuff like that. I think it's fun doing little challenges like that. And then, you prove a little something to yourself every time you challenge yourself in a little way. And then next time you can do something a little bit bigger than that. I love stuff like that.
And that's how, like, honestly, guys, that's how we started channeling. Mm-hmm. We had to start out very small. We had to just sometimes sit in the energy and just like talk ourselves down or have someone talk us down or like be told to open our mouths, so like it's these teeny tiny baby steps that before you know it, you actually can channel or a being actually comes through. And I remember the first couple of times I was channeling, like even with Michael, what I thought was very interesting was like if he would be sitting in a chair across from me and he would be talking and I would be just telling people like what he was saying. I asked him about it once and he's like, oh, it's like you hear me, I don't remember what it was, like 95% correctly. Mm-hmm. And I was like, holy crap, like that's pretty good. But then like to try the first few times to try to channel through me and have me talk with him saying probably the same exact thing, that was really hard for me to do. Even though like I had talked to him for like, years. So we all like we all are there at some point and we all have to like push ourselves that extra mile to do it, even when we don't want to do it, So yes.
Well, we still have fun while doing it. It's always fun if you try to force yourself to have fun. If you look at it as a joyful experience, Michael Jackson gets to speak through me today. Like he gets to express himself with human words that he doesn't usually get to do. That's really exciting. You can always find a way to see the excitement in it. It doesn't have to be something that's nervous or like scary or anything. You can always find a facet of it that's really exciting and latch onto that, and you'll channel better too if you can hold that onto that as you're doing it.
It's so true. That's like one of the little breadcrumbs that will help things go faster. And this just reminds me, like, I was having this conversation with somebody the other day, and I said, well, didn't you ask your team or something about that? Like, ask them what happened. And the person was like, well, I don't want to seem like I'm not humble or something like that. I don't want to seem like and it was so interesting, like how people can see the same thing, where like that person was seeing it on a polarity scale of like worrying that because they did something cool and they wanted to know more about it, that it wouldn't be considered humble if they went to dig into it. Where like the way I saw it was like, dude, that's really cool. Like, you should find out more about that because that's going to help you know more about you. Mm-hmm. And so it's very interesting how as we progress in our understanding of ourselves and our energy, we can fall into these shifts of like not feeling worthy enough to ask, or, you know, feeling like if I ask, it's going to come across wrong. But so just remember that when you're learning about yourself and you're learning about how you tick and you're asking questions to your teams and your people, I think that's a beautiful thing. I think that that is showing that you are taking control of yourself and you're recognizing when something amazing happens and you're wanting to learn more about it. I don't think that that is something that can be seen as like not being humble, or if you don't ask about these things, if you don't pick these things apart and learn about them, how can you figure yourself out? Like, I think that it's just my personal opinion, but I think that's part of the puzzle. And I think people get stifled sometimes because they are worried they're going to come off as being arrogant, or being full of themselves, but really it's not. When you don't know how you did that, or when you don't know like how this all happened in order to have this thing happen, you can say, oh, I don't know, what would be something silly? Oh, I spoke to this tree and this tree bent over and like shook my hand. Like, okay, that's cool that you did that, but like, how did you do that? It's not like, I'm so cool, I did this, I don't even know how. No, like you're humbling yourself to be like, how did I get this tree to like bend over and talk to me? That was kind of a silly way to go about it. But that's the only thing I could think of. I was looking at my tree outside.
That'll happen. Sometimes when I talk to trees, like they'll wave their branch in my direction and I think that they're talking to me. And it's cool to get excited about it. It's not like, wow, look at me, like I command the trees. It's exciting. I'm communicating with this being. I'm really excited about it. Excitement is where all great things start, and it's a wonderful manifestation state, being excited. So don't ever stomp on your own excitement, and don't ever let anyone else stomp on your excitement. And if it sparks a curiosity, you should follow it, because that's following your joys, following your excitement. That's what we should all be doing. And anyone who tries to make you feel a lower way about it, they're projecting their own issues on you. So don't listen to them.
Exactly. Like, I think the world today, they don't want people to be too excited, or if you're excited, they want you to feel like you have to live up to somebody else's excitement. And that is completely wrong. Please don't ever think you have to do that. You have your own little world. So it's your excitement and nobody else can quite see it like you can. So be joyful in that excitement. And I just heard Micah go, yep. Right on his face. That's so funny. So yes, be joyful in your excitement. Okay, I don't know if what we want to do. I don't know if there's any beings that want to come through. They kind of know that we're taking the day off, but but you know, sometimes like if there's big messages to get through, they will come through. Let me just check on my side to see if there's anyone who really wants to come through at all.
There is, isn't there?
Hang on just one second. Michael's like, well, I would like to come through and talk, but I know you're taking the day off. But I'm just gonna shoot you all the stuff that I'm just gonna say in like one download. And she's
I
like,
knew
that's
it was
okay. He's like, I don't have to talk. So I don't. Do you have anybody on your side?
I feel this very elated, like Michael Jackson-y energy, but I don't think he would come to me to channel.
You probably would, because I was like, I don't think I'm gonna do it, Michael, not today. Maybe it's Freddie. Maybe Freddie would want to come through. He probably, I don't know if that's his thing. It's probably not his thing.
I've
But
channeled him before.
you,
It's a
you
trip channeling him.
have?
Yeah, I channeled him for
Really?
Saphira. Like a year and like 2 Novembers ago, I channeled him for Saphira.
Oh, interesting. So he does speak. He just is very quiet unless he's actually like called on to speak.
He wants to talk, but they're not letting him. It's ever since we did this divine feminine work last week, they're trying to keep our energetic fields like very calm and
Yeah.
peaceful because these energies need calm, peaceful energy to integrate with us. So that's why we haven't been channeling that much, but it doesn't stop the beings from wanting to channel, to want to channel. I really wish that I could channel Freddie Mercury for you guys today because he's amazing. Maybe by this time next, no, not by this time.
Well, we should talk about next week too.
Mm.
And like, because I don't know where I'm going to be next week. I am taking a little vacation, much needed vacation, but I can't guarantee that there's going to be cell towers for internet access to the places that I'm going, because I need to go spend some time with Mother Nature and get some grounding and stuff. So I don't know if we're going to actually have one next week. That doesn't mean we won't be back the week after. It just means that I think we might end up taking next week off. So don't be surprised. Don't be surprised unless unless you want to go on live and bring somebody else on, or because I was thinking like it'd be fun with like Matei, but it would be way too late to.
I couldn't do just me and Matei. We need you. It would be weird.
All this cool information about like geometry and pyramids and cool.
He's very brilliant.
Jody says that she channels Freddie Mercury as well.
Oh, really? No way. Oh, I would love to hear about your experiences.
I know. We should bring her on, and then she can channel him for us tonight. And then we can still like say, no, we're sitting out. Like we promised you we'd sit out. That would be fun, Jody. We should. I would love to have you channel Freddie Mercury if you would be interested at some point. Not that you'd have to do it live, like but that's so amazing. I have not that I've ever channeled. I guess I have, but not like this type of channeling. But like David Bowie comes in every great once in a while just to yell at me for like things that I haven't had this happen recently, but like in the past where I'm trying to figure out how to handle a situation, and like I was still learning about like my abilities and like how to wield like magic and energy, and I was like, wow, I'm just gonna do this. And then he pops in and I got the 2-4 from him one night. Like it was like 2 or 3 times he had come to me, and it was never like, hey, how are you doing? It was like, we have to talk, I know you're thinking about this and this isn't good, and you should really rethink your stuff. So it's very interesting.
You get the most interesting people that come to you.
Yeah, it's very weird. I don't know. And then it would be fun too to channel Winston Churchill at some point.
That's what I was thinking of. I still really want him to insult me. He's famous for his insults. And I've been telling Temple for months now, when she channels him, he has to cater an insult to me specifically. I think it would be so funny.
You see, so like we are not improper at all. We like make silly jokes and like laugh and all this stuff. I mean, all right, let me see. Let me see if Michael has, if he just wants to like ramble on, I'm not going to let him do that. But if he has something really important to say, I'll let him say it. I can't stop laughing.
He's just very joyful.
Yeah, he's very joyful. I should say, I'm going to only let you in if you fix my jaw. You're not going to believe this.
What?
He was going to step in and I saw a big hand go like this.
Oh,
like
so
they're not going to let him step in and talk. They're not going to let him step in and talk.
Oh, yeah, that's how it felt with Freddie too. I think it was him. You were right.
I said, well, do you have anything important to say? He goes, well, I always have important things to say. I said, no, seriously, like you have to have something important to say. He's like, I love you. That's important. And I was like, no, that's not what we're talking about. And I was just like, well, that's what I'm talking about. Like, oh no, you're just here to. So like with all this divine feminine work that we're doing, as Maggie said, like the people in our sphere has been very limited, and so like this was really the first time I've talked to Michael in like weeks. Mm-hmm. They're really being careful about our energies at this moment. So I would love to channel him, but they're saying no, not today. So I guess we're not gonna do any channeling tonight.
Yeah, sorry you guys. We love being able to channel on these Wednesdays. It's really fun for me, and I know it's fun for Temple too, but when we have to listen to our teams, and hopefully next time, or when this stuff is over very shortly, within the next 10 days, we'll be able to channel in an even greater way for you and bring through even better information afterward.
Right. And then by then, hopefully my jaw will be healed. So I won't be like lisping and not being able to move my jaw. So hopefully that'll all be healed in due time. We can take this time just to talk about the solar eclipse. I'm sure you guys know about the eclipse, so I'm not going to go too much into it. But on June 10th, we're going to have a solar eclipse. We had the lunar eclipse, and the fact that they're like so close together is actually really important. This is an annular solar eclipse, though, so like it does happen every year, annular, right? Every year. But so this time, as you guys are working with the energies, I don't know if you work with like eclipse energies or like sun energies, but usually a lot of people like look at their past and then they look where they're going in their future. And that's kind of how people like maneuver their paths ahead, right? It's either always the past or the future. It's never like in this now moment. And so as this eclipse comes through and happens, what the energies are really trying to get you to do, it's trying to block the past out, block the future out just for a bit. And so you have this one moment of you time in this now to let go of the past, let go of the things in the future, and be in the now moment with yourself and be honest about yourself. If there's something you really, really are working towards, but you don't think it's working, or you have to change your path, or you've been too stubborn to see that in the past, these are the things that the solar eclipse wants you to focus on. They want you to make plans for the future, but do it because of taking an honest look at yourself in this now moment, where you are, where you've come from, but where you seriously want to go. Like you're supposed to kind of drop the past, drop the future, and be in that present moment. And the more that you can be honest with yourself in the present moment for this eclipse energy, the more you can make plans based on what you need, not what everybody else needs, not what you think you need, not what you want to need, but what you can make plans for you, just being you and being honest. That's how you're the best way to use this eclipse energy coming in. I don't know if you have anything more to.
I think that was beautiful. I didn't even get that download or read anything about that. That was really nicely said. Did you download that? Did they give that to you?
I don't know. I did some writing. I did some automatic writing,
wow.
so it must have been a download.
Oh, that was beautiful. I don't know if I have any more to add except that my perspective on these kind of things is often a bit different. Well, I guess on this particular one, this is what they're telling me, or this is how it's coming in for me. It's not so much, it's about releasing expectations and releasing yourself from these boxes. We have a version of ourselves that we thought we were in the past, and we let things from the past define us, and it's letting go of that. And we have this version of ourselves in the future that we might want ourselves to be, or other people might want ourselves to be, but that's not really us either, and that's restrictive because it restricts all that we could be if we fit it into this one thing. We could think that's what we really want, but what if there's this other amazing thing waiting over here, which is how it usually happens. It doesn't usually happen how you expect. So for me, I'm not so good at writing down stuff to manifest, and I'm not really so good with planning for the future. You guys might have wonderful things that you want to manifest for the future. If you're a great planner like Temple, I'm not a great planner. Planning doesn't come easily to me, and it doesn't suit me. So for me, I think that this eclipse is going to be about releasing all the expectations, releasing who I thought I was, who I think that I'm going to be, and getting into a state of pure faith that the universe is going to rocket me down the path that I'm meant for, that I probably don't even see yet. So for me, I think it's going to be something more about faith. So that's going to show me that goes to show me right now that this eclipse means something different for everyone.
Yep, definitely. But as you were talking though, it's like I can see how it's intertwined with what I had spoken about. I think what you're doing with yours, the way you're seeing it, is you're adding the extra details to it. Like do you know what I mean? Like I gave the overview and then like you just added the details. And I think that's amazing.
Yeah, I guess it's just two different perspectives. If you can plan, if that's exciting for you. I know that Temple loves writing stuff down and making lists,
I posted notes
getting
all over
everything in order, how she would like it to be. And that's part of the magic for her, is the putting it into action with the words and in the list. And maybe I'm just lazy. So the magic for me is just letting it go and just dropping myself into the hands of the universe, and that's the magic for me. So however the magic is for you and how you want to see your highest timeline, that's how you should pursue it.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's really well said. Okay. I think we should probably 2 hours. Yes. So we try to stick to the 2 hour mark, and I think we're there. So I think we should give some blessings, and I hope this has been really helpful for you guys. Like part of me, I'm gonna be honest, part of me feels bad that like we didn't, or we couldn't, that like I know, like I feel like we come here to like channel and give cool information, but I think that it's just their way of showing me that you still have good information from you. You don't have to always channel that information. Do you know what I mean? Like, because you as a being have had so many experiences that you can talk about these experiences too, and they are just as good as getting like channeled information.
Yeah.
So it's, do you know what I mean? So like they're trying to teach me like channeled information isn't more or less. It's it's equal. Like it's all in how you look at it. Like I don't know. It's just something weird.
I totally agree. And probably one day when we're in the spirit realm, someone's going to want to channel us for the information that we're talking about as humans now. So everyone, it's all
weird to think about. Like Hopefully, although you like the way it goes. So this, I find this so interesting. I was thinking about this yesterday. I know now why, like in the past incarnations, like on this planet, let's just say, because we're on the planet now, I know why a lot of my specific past incarnations don't have stuff written about them. Like um they're all very secretive. They're all very like, well, there was this person. We don't know much about them, but like, you know, so I understand that in a much larger context now, I think, because when we're here, we're always doing work like this. And this type of work doesn't get written down. It doesn't, you know what I mean? Like political stuff and stuff, that all gets written down. But like the energetic, spiritual, like shamanic work, all that stuff, that doesn't really get written down because even in like various cultures, it's sort of like passed down through like verbal storytelling, or like you have to go through these ceremonies, but like it's so sacred that they don't write this type of work down. And so I think I understand myself in a bit better way after the happenings of these last couple weeks. And I think that's a really cool thing, a really special thing to realize that like you're here doing it again. I mean, I used to be like, I'm here and I'm doing it again and I'm really done. I'm done. But like now I kind of feel like all of those experiences are kind of linked in to this experience now. And so they were all valid in their own way, but in a domino effect way, they're all very important. Just the same thing with like all of your guys' experiences and past lives and stuff that you've had. I would think when you would be able to understand them in a broader way, I don't know if that's the right word, that you would see that there is certain things that kind of link into this life as well. And I'm just understanding that now. It's taken me a long time, but I'm just understanding that now. And I think that's a beautiful thing. And to be a place where I am expanding enough and learning enough about myself to be able to see those things in me. That is what I'm going to say about that.
That was beautifully said. I'm trying to catch up with you about all of that. I think I'm getting it, but I'm getting it like 2 steps behind you as you're explaining it. It's very it's
like
big.
It's big. It's very big. Yeah, it's very big. It's like jaw mashing big. Jaw smashing big. Okay, well, we love you guys a lot. And if you don't see us, if you don't see one up for next Wednesday, everything is cool. Everything is fine. I'm probably digging for gems somewhere or like hugging a tree somewhere or something like that. It'll be okay. We will be back then the next Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
So we love you all, and I maybe we can come up with the next Wednesday because that would be episode 6 or the Wednesday after. And so we can come up with the topic maybe before I leave. And then if you guys have amazing questions that you think of and you don't want to forget, you can put them in the chat. I think the chat is up. Isn't the chat up? Is like once we post it, the chat is up. So anybody could put a question in there and it will save it until our time comes.
Or if you think of one later, just pop it in as a comment on the video.
Right. Or save it in your notes on your phones.
And please don't hesitate with your questions or think that your question isn't good enough or important enough. All questions are great. So if you're holding back on anything, please don't. Please express yourself. Please express anything that you would like to say or ask, because it's really, really important to allow yourself to express And all of your thoughts and all of your questions and all of your opinions are highly valued by us, and we want to address them and speak about them and help or whatever in the best way. So please don't hold yourself back whatsoever.
Yeah, and they're all valid. Like all your thoughts and questions are valid. It's not. It's no one is any less, or no one is not as good as anyone else here. We're all learning. We're all learning together, and so anything, don't hesitate.
Please.
Okay.
We would love to hear it. We love hearing what you guys have.
I'm gonna get off my soapbox now. All right, so let me just double check. For those of you who just tuned in, before we go, we did give if you don't speak light language, we did give a coding for you for that. If you want that to be unlocked, and we kind of talked about it in the beginning. So for those of you tuning in now, if that's something you're interested in, check that out in the beginning. And other than that, we'll see you guys in a couple weeks. Okay. You want to go first this time?
Sure.
All right.
Lahasati andatuhu rahata, likasatu usunumasati, lehala susuasati, hala alla sahalakasata, mukusayasati leasatu makasata, hundu husu hasamuhu halayaha, lahana mukute asasi, busayasaka sunumastati kasata. Namaste.
Mosataya sanaya toko nakalea to boshoko tias kita ana nale wesene naya oto bojoko diniapat nalea akateas kono shojojo ana nia jajati to kamania tolo shona mayazanana biajoko ta diali ijikato usono nayata kala atia po oko kono no nia la ala hala naya ala bojoko naleaskodo. Nahala. Namaste. All right. Much love, you guys. Take care, and we will see you soon.